What's up, people of the internet? My name is Dabacab, and letting your heroes die in Artifact is a good thing. Why would that be? We're going to find out in today's video, so stay tuned. Alright, hero death. Why on earth would you want your heroes to die? Now, when I went to PAX to play Artifact, I approached games with a very simple philosophy. Be efficient, get value, and win trades. I wanted to deal as much damage as possible, take as little damage as possible, and so I went out of my way to keep my heroes alive and protect them at all costs. Was that a good strategy? Kinda, sort of. It is certainly true that you want to generally keep your things alive, especially your creep. You don't want to waste spells. But game after game after game, I gradually learned that hero death isn't quite as bad as you might think. In fact, there are many situations where you really want your hero to die. And the awkward thing about that realization is that it's so counterintuitive. Card advantage is a really important principle in card games. The basic idea is if you have more cards in total, both on the board and in your hand than your opponent, then you have some sort of advantage. You have more options, you have more resources, you have more flexibility, and as a result, you're more likely to win. Of course, that same principle applies in Artifact. If two players are evenly matched, but one has 2 cards and one has 10 cards, you can reasonably expect the player with 10 cards to win that game. On the same note, if you have a player with 5 heroes on the board playing against a player with 2 heroes on the board, then you can expect the 5 hero player to win that round at least. And on top of that, losing heroes sucks. It feels bad. It feels bad to let your hero die. It sucks that your opponent gets 5 gold out of it. Having your heroes die sucks. It really does. But I think we really need to shift our attitudes about hero death in this game. Losing a hero sucks, but it is a double-edged sword. There are inherent advantages to losing a hero. The first one is you heal to full. The second is you get to redeploy the hero, and redeploying the hero, as I've said in my other videos, is incredibly powerful. So there are actually many situations where you actively want your hero to die. The most obvious one is if you're super invested in a lane, you win that lane, and then you don't need to be in that lane anymore, right? If you've got 3 heroes in a lane plus some creep and you destroy that tower, then you've only got 2 heroes to allocate towards the other 2 lanes. You are completely overextended. At that point, it's actually fairly likely that the opponent will be able to take the game from you in the other 2 lanes because you won't have the pure hero manpower to stop them. So in those situations, you're going to want those heroes to die in that lane so you can redeploy them elsewhere. That's the really obvious advantage. But after playing some games, I realized that there are some subtle but very useful advantages that also come from hero death that you're really not going to notice unless you play a couple of games. If you have a Tidehunter in a lane and he has tons of armor, he's fully healed, the opponent knows that hero isn't going anywhere. That is a known variable, so he can't expect any surprises from Tidehunter. But if your Tidehunter dies, your opponent loses that information. He knows that Tidehunter is going to come out in 2 rounds, but he doesn't know where, and he doesn't know under what conditions. Your opponent is going to be free from your Tidehunter for 1 round, but he won't be able to know where you're going to redeploy that Tidehunter. So that means he doesn't know which lane is going to have a red hero in it. He doesn't know which lane is going to have red mana available, and that makes it so much harder to plan ahead. And as I've heard many players say, it is incredibly important to plan ahead 1, maybe even 2 turns into the future in Artifact. So there is like a potential nightmare scenario where you lose all 5 heroes, and yeah, that's awful. That really sucks. That means you're not going to be able to cast anything in all 3 lanes for a full turn, and there's a pretty good chance you're going to lose. But if somehow miraculously you're able to survive that full lane 1, lane 2, lane 3 pass, and that means you've got 5 heroes coming out, which is an even worse scenario for your opponent because he has no idea where you're sending your heroes. It's impossible to predict. He basically has to just guess. It's dumb luck at that point. So denying players information is very useful, and that's just an inherent built-in advantage to losing a hero every single time. Another advantage that comes from losing your hero is that it helps you control when and where you use your heroes so that you can use them exactly the turn that you need them. Let's suppose, for example, that you have Zeus in your deck, which of course means you have Thunder God's Wrath. Thunder God's Wrath is a 7 mana spell, meaning naturally that you want a blue hero on the board on turn 7. So your opponent is going to go out of your way to kill Zeus or whatever other blue hero you have on the field to ensure that you cannot cast Thunder God's Wrath. So it might actually be to your advantage to intentionally allow Zeus to die on turn 5, because that means your opponent cannot possibly stop you from having a Zeus on the field on turn 7. Let's suppose, for example, you have 5 mana in a lane, Zeus is up against a powerful red hero and he's going to die. You have an item in your hand that could save Zeus from death. Do you play it on Zeus to save him, or do you hold on to it and play it on another hero? Well, in this specific scenario, it might be better to just let Zeus die, because that means next turn, 6 mana, Zeus will not be available, but honestly, it's not a big deal, because then turn 7 rolls around, you plop down Zeus, and assuming you have initiative, the opponent cannot stop you from playing Thunder God's Wrath. Plus, even if they did have initiative, Zeus is coming down on the board with full health, which is going to make it even harder for the opponent to kill him. The same is true for active abilities. Chin's ability is on a 4-turn cooldown, so it might actually be in your best interest to let Chin die when his cooldown is 2 turns away from being fully activated, because he'll come back to your hand, he'll be fully healed, and then when he's finally able to play your abilities, he is in your hand and you get to decide which lane do you want to put Chin into. And that's fantastic because his ability steals a creep. So being able to deploy Chin to the lane with the strongest creep, to the lane with the Thunderhide Alpha, to the lane with the Horn of the Alpha, to the lane with the Ogre Conscript, that will be incredibly useful because you can instantly use his ability to steal that creep. So I've heard other Artifact players say, especially Artifact players who are in the beta, say that they're afraid that players are going to pick up this game, their heroes are going to die in turn 1 or 2, and they're going to feel crappy. They're going to be like, oh man, my guys died, I don't stand a chance, I may as well quit. In a lot of other games, that's true. If you feed early, it's going to snowball into an opponent victory. If you just are playing badly, if you make mistakes, the opponent's going to exploit that and you're going to lose eventually. But in Artifact, that's just not the case. Having your heroes die is just something you're going to have to deal with, especially if you're playing blue. I picked blue-red as my final deck at PAX, and by then I had played a couple of decks with blue, and I had already learned my lesson. I had already swallowed that pill. Blue heroes, they're going to die. That's a fact of life. You just have to accept it. You can try to stop it. You can try and give them cloaks, armor, defensive things, healing potions, scrolls of town portal, whatever, but sorry man, it's just gonna happen. That's one of the built-in weaknesses to blue that you just can't avoid. In the same way that red is really powerful and good at killing other heroes, they get a strong early game gold lead, but they've got the reverse built-in weakness, which is their late game spells aren't quite as powerful. They don't have quite as many late game options, and they are outclassed by blue in the very late game. So what I'm trying to say is, don't feel bad about your heroes dying. Even more than that, embrace it, lean into it. It is a tool on your tool belt that you will have to use to get victory. Now, I will say that it's a tool that is going to be kind of difficult to learn. It's not like a hammer or a screwdriver. This thing is more like a table saw. It's complicated, it's dangerous, it's very easy to mess up. But once you learn to use it, I guarantee you it's going to help you win games. So all you blue players out there, I feel you, man. I'm a blue player. I love blue creatures. I love slow effects. But I'm telling you, man, hero death, it's unavoidable. It's going to happen. Learn to love your hero death. I'm telling you. So what do you think about this advice? Do you disagree with me? If you do, normally I'm not quite so objective at the end of my videos, but I'm telling you, if you disagree with me, you are wrong. I promise you that hero death is largely a good thing. Not entirely a good thing. It does kind of suck, but it is an asset that you can use to help you win games. It's more useful than you probably think it is. But beyond that, do you agree with my advice? Can you think of any other advantages that comes from allowing your heroes to die? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Dabacab out.